IPSec site-to-site VPN and interface mode. Okay everyone, so in the previous video, if you remember, we configure an IPSec VPN tunnel, and now in this particular session, we're going to configure a layer 3 tunnel interface between site A, which is Sky, and site B, which is Sea. Benefit of going with a layer 3 tunnel interface is the fact that we can have IP reachability and allow OSPF or any other layer 3 dynamic routing protocol to perform adjacency, because now we have a point-to-point interface that goes across the WAN or across your dedicated network. So if you have a particular scenario where you want to build a layer 3 dynamic routing adjacency between two peers, you can do that. So it actually saves us from adding static routes or keep adding more policies in order for us to allow different subnets to reach the other network. So in this case, we have site A, which is Sky, and Sky's network, they have a 172.16.00.24, and we have a client on that network, which is 172.16.0.10. If you remember our previous video, we're only advertising the 1010, and we're not actually advertising, we're just announcing on the tunnel that we're allowing 1010 as my source traffic to hit the 1020. Now, we want to allow this additional subnet, but instead of manually telling, number one, telling SkyCore, hey, if you want to reach 102550, I need to send a static route, and then the Palo Alto will need to have another static route to hit the traffic and send to site B. We can just enable a tunnel interface and a /30, so we'll have .1 on this end and then .2 on the other end. And we can have OSPF adjacency between the two Palo Altos over that IPsec tunnel and advertise in the same area both networks and both locations. So now the C network should be able to see the subnets that are advertised over the tunnel from SkyCore. So if I advertise this subnet, I should be able to see this advertised in C-Core, and then my client can reach the server from Sky to C over the IPsec tunnel by following a dynamic routing protocol. It's very useful and it's more simpler to manage, because then you don't need to add static routes on every single hop on your network. You just need to enable OSPF on the interfaces and advertise that subnet across the tunnel. So we need to allow the tunnel to send this traffic from the 172.16. If you remember on our previous video, we configured proxy IDs. In the proxy IDs, we advertised the source, which was 1010 and 1020 as the destination on the Sky firewall, and the C firewall, we advertised it backwards because now the source will be 1020 and the destination will be 1010. We still need to advertise the new ID because we're sending this IP natively, and the IPsec tunnel policy, we need to allow this subnet over the tunnels so it can flow and it's permitted, and the Palo Alto doesn't drop that traffic. So we still need to add the proxy ID onto the IPsec tunnel config, and we need to enable a layer 3 interface on the tunnel interface and assign these IPs. So let's go ahead and configure IPsec tunnel in tunnel mode. And what we're going to do, we're just going to update the existing tunnel and add an interface IP in both locations, then enable OSPF end-to-end. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so I have here the C core. If you remember our slide, we have two cores. One core is the Sky core and site A, and then the other core, it's the C core and site B. Let me show you how C core is configured, and we'll show you how Sky's core is configured, so you can see that we have enabled OSPF locally on the interfaces, and we need to enable OSPF between the Palo Alto and site core, and then we'll configure the tunnel so it can have reachability or bring adjacency to site B or the C company. Okay. So inside core, I have two interfaces. The interface that faces the Palo Alto. On the Palo Alto, we have .1 with the 10.10.01, and then the core is .2. The interface that faces the client PC is 172.16.01, and the client PC is 10. If you take a look at the configuration on the interface that faces the Palo Alto, we have enabled OSPF process 1 and area 0. And also enable this to be a network point-to-point interface. So we need to do the same thing on the Palo Alto so we can have reachability to the Sky core in OSPF. So we need to know that we have adjacency built between Sky Core and the Palo Alto. So let's take a look if we have adjacency between Sky Core and the Palo Alto. And we don't. So you can see there's no output. So let's fix that. Let's build adjacency between Palo Alto and the Sky Core. Okay, real quick, I'm going to go to Network. I'm going to go to the virtual router, and we're enabling OSPF. And we're going to configure this to be local router ID of 10.10.01. And we're going to add the area 0, type normal. We're not adding a range, we're just doing interface, enabling OSPF on the interface. Let's enable interface, the inside interface 1/2, and we're going to enable this to be a point-to-point, because remember on the core we have to put point-to-point, and that's it. We'll press OK, OK, and OK, and we'll commit. And now we'll check how the core is seeing that adjacency. Okay, let's take a look at the core. And we already see a log message that we have an adjacency to the neighbor, which is 10.10.01. That's our Palo Alto. That looks very good. And there you go. We have full state. And we're here in OSPF between the Sky Core and the Palo Alto and Site A or Sky. Let's build OSPF in the tunnel interface. So let's configure interface mode on the site-to-site tunnel. On our previous section, we already configured that IPSec tunnel. So what we need to do now is enable to be a layer 3 interface between the two sites. So let's go ahead into interfaces, because remember, if we go into the IPSec tunnel, there's a tunnel interface assigned to this IPSec tunnel. And we have tunnel 3 on Sky Site A. So tunnel 3 is the tunnel interface that is attached to the site-to-site tunnel. We need to add that IP under this interface. Let's take a look at what was the IP that we need to assign. On the Sky side, we have the 22.0.0.0/30, and we're going to assign to tunnel 3.1. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let me go ahead and find that interface. Let's go to interfaces, tunnel 3, and now in IPv4, I am going to add that interface IP. Okay, so now we have that interface assigned, and we're going to press commit. Okay, so now while that's committing, we're going to add the same address space on the C firewall, and we're going to add a .2 on the tunnel interface. Okay, let's go to the C firewall. Let's go to network. And by the way, let's take a look at the IPsec tunnel here on the Sky firewall. And we're going to see what's the assigned tunnel interface. And you can see it here is .2. Let's go ahead and configure interface tunnel .2. Let's go to tunnel, select tunnel 2, IPv4, and we're going to add the .2 here. Okay, so now we have the .2 here. Press OK, and we'll commit. Okay, now that we commit, we need to tell in the tunnel what other networks are going to be allowed to traverse the tunnel. So let's go ahead and configure that. Let's go first to the C firewall, and this is the VPN tunnel that goes to Sky. Okay, and under proxy IDs, I'm going to add those two new subnets that they are going to be allowed to go through the tunnel. So click on add. Okay, this will be my proxy ID, Sky Traffic 2. My local LAN side will be, and now my new subnet on Sky will be the 172.16. Okay, because if you remember, this is our new client subnet in the Sky network. Let me show you the diagram again. The diagram, we're allowing this source traffic on the tunnel to hit this network on the Sky network. So from 10.2 to destination 172.16 where my PC is. And we have to do the same thing backwards from Sky to C. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so I got this network advertised, or this network added into the proxy ID. And we're going to add one more. It's this subnet right here, the 10.255.0.0.24. So remember, this is our source networks. Those are our source networks, and those are our destination networks. So we should have the policies allowed for those two. Okay, so let me add this real quick. Local. Remember, this is my new local LAN in C. Now this local LAN will be able to hit this remote network in Sky. And we'll do one more. And there you go. Now I am allowing both local networks in the C company to hit the remote networks in the Sky company. We'll press OK. And now finally, we need to enable OSPF and allow the security policy to allow the new subnets to go through the zones. So let's enable OSPF. Okay, let's enable the OSPF process also on the tunnel interface. Go to OSPF, area 0, and now we're going to select a new interface that will participate in area 0. And it will be the tunnel interface 2, because this is the C firewall, it's going to be tunnel 2. Select the tunnel 2 interface, and we're just going to do a broadcast on this particular interface. Press here, we'll press OK, and we'll press OK again. And finally, we're going to configure that security policy, because we're only allowing 1020 to hit 1010, and then backwards 1010 to hit 1020. So now we got to do the same thing, or we just need to allow those two new subnets here. Okay, in the security policy, I already have the first subnet. Let me add the second subnet. That's my local subnet in the C company. Okay, destination. Okay, so now my two local networks are allowed to hit the remote subnets in the Sky company. We'll press OK, and let's do the same thing backwards. Okay, let's add the second remote subnet, because this is my Sky to Inside policy, so the source will be incoming from the tunnel going to my local network. So I'm allowing those two subnets to traverse the tunnel to reach my networks on the inside. And I'm going to add the new inside subnet. We'll press OK, and now we'll commit. Okay, so now we have to do the same thing on the Sky firewall. I am going to configure on the Sky firewall a little bit quicker, so we continue testing. So let's go ahead real quick and IPSec tunnels. I'm going to add my proxy IDs, and in this case will be from Sky to C. And I forgot to add second local one, so let's go ahead and add that. Okay, one more. Now we have this ready. Finally, we have to enable OSPF on the tunnel interface. In this case, we have tunnel 3 as the tunnel interface on this site-to-site tunnel. Okay, so let's select OSPF, area 0, interface, and add the tunnel interface here. Enable, enable, okay. And finally, the policies. We're just going to add, again, the new subnets traverse the zone-to-zone traffic. Okay, let's go ahead and add on the source, and this will be the new remote subnet that needs to go through. Okay, we're going to go destination and add the new one. And we should be good on this one. Let's do it backwards now. Okay, and let's go ahead and commit. Okay, so it's committed. So now we just need to test. Before we do a ping test or check the routes on the core, let's take a look at the virtual router on the Palo Alto and see if we see some sort of adjacency formed in the OSPF process. Let's go here into virtual routers. I'm actually clicking runtime stats. From here, I can see if I'm having OSPF, and indeed, here we go. So we have here that it has learned OSPF already, and we see the subnets advertised, which it's showing my next hop to be .2. And I'm actually on Sky Firewall, and my local IP on the tunnel interface is .1, and I already see that .2 is advertising, so that is a very good sign. That means that we're definitely adjacent in OSPF, and the core is actually sending the routes onto the Palo Alto, which the Palo Alto is then advertising via the site-to-site tunnel. So if I go into the OSPF process and click neighbors, boom, there you go. So I got my local core as my local neighbor, so this is the Sky core, and I do have the neighbor Palo Alto and the C firewall. So let's go ahead and do a show command on the core switch to see if we can see some routes as well. And finally, we'll test. And we definitely have adjacency to the Palo Alto, but now we need to see if we see the routes from the C company. There you go. So we see both routes advertising OSPF, 10.20.00 and 10.255.0.24. This is a very good news. Finally, what we need to do is test connectivity. We should be able to ping from the 172.16.0.10, which is my local machine in the Sky network, to the server and the C core, which is 10.255.0.10. So let's go ahead and confirm that we are able to ping from this machine all the way over the tunnel to this server right here. And everything has been advertising OSPF, as we can confirm on the information shown in the firewall. Let's go ahead and ping. Okay, first of all, let's ping if we can hit the Palo Alto, the local interface in the Palo Alto for this network. And sure enough, I can ping it. Moment of truth. Let's ping that server. There you go. So we definitely have reachability. our job is done. We have OSPF adjacency going over a site-to-site IPSec tunnel over the WAN. So this is very good news, and this is a great way to have a peer and advertise multiple subnets over the internet by using that IPSec tunnel. We have reachability between this network and the C network via OSPF, which is then advertised over this IPSec tunnel. Okay everyone, in our next video we're going to take a look at how to configure a Global Protect remote access VPN portal. Thank you for watching.